So hi everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Rafi Shulman, and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. It's such a pleasure to have you with us tonight, and I really hope that you find the information that we share with you helpful in your planning. I'd like to just take a moment and thank all the speakers who are joining us tonight, and they will introduce themselves as we get to them. But thank you so much for taking the time and being willing to share your information and guidance with other people. I want to just go over a few quick things quickly. The first thing is we will be recording this. So if you've come late or you have to leave early, don't worry about it. We'll send you an email probably by Tuesday with a link to the recorded webinar so that you can then watch it at your convenience. Also, what we will do is that we will have our contact information at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We recognize that we're not going to be able to get to everybody's questions and really delve into your personal situation on this webinar. So we really want to encourage you to reach out to us. Let's schedule a one-on-one call. Let's really understand what your plans are, what your challenges are, what your concerns are, whether you're looking to make Aliyah now or down the road, or perhaps you're looking to buy a home now down the road. Let's have a one-on-one conversation so we can give you some information that you can keep in mind and help you with your planning. And the last thing is that we will have a Q&A session at the end. So go ahead and type your questions in the Q&A window, and we will get to as many of them as we can at the end of the webinar. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with Olim Advisors, I just wanted to briefly share with you why we started Olim Advisors. So I and my partner, Aliyah Advisors, that you'll meet in a moment, started Olim Advisors back in 2016 because we recognized that making Aliyah or buying a home in Israel is a very complex, very overwhelming, very stressful process. And a lot of people, as they realized this, just gave up and they said, you know what, this is just too complicated for me. It's too hard for me. It's not the right time. I'm just not going to do that. And it's such a shame. So what we decided to do is start offering a service that is very customized, very tailored to each one of our clients. And in what we do is we have an advisor that guides them through the entire process from the early stages of planning. So if you're making Aliyah, we'll help you find communities, we'll help you find schools, we'll help you find a home, help you decide what to ship, so on and so forth. And then when you get to Israel and you have to deal with the bureaucracy, I'm sure many of you, if you either heard horror stories about the bureaucracy or you've dealt with it, we will help you get through this process as quickly as possible. And the most important thing is that we're going to provide you with ongoing support as you adjust to life in Israel. Our goal is really to make sure that you adjust quickly and that you lead a very happy life. And the same thing applies, of course, to people who are looking to buy a home. We will help you from the early stages of figuring out what communities might be suitable, to finding the right developers, to introducing you to the right people who can help you and guide you through this process, and then to make sure that we oversee the entire transaction from beginning to end. So really the bottom line is that we here at Olim Advisors will help you reduce the amount of time and effort that you put into planning your Aliyah or buying a home in Israel. And I guess most importantly is that we will help reduce the stress of making Aliyah or buying a home in Israel so that you don't give up on your dream and that you see it through. And please God, we can be a small part of that process. So with that said, I'd like to hand you over. I'd like to introduce you to my partner, Aliyah Advisors.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aliyah Advisors. I'm also Rafi Shulman's sister. I want to just start by saying how lucky we feel. Me and Rafi talk about this all the time, and we talk about it as a team. We wake up on a daily basis being able to help people make Aliyah, make the process as easy and as smooth as possible for them. And we feel very, very incredibly lucky. It's such a zchut to be able to do this. So firstly, thank you for joining us. Thank you to the clients that are here. Thank you to our staff that are incredible. We really are so very lucky. What we've done over the last 7 to 8 years is we've really built amazing relationships with people in different offices. So whether it's the Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Absorption, David Newfield, for example, Racheli, families that we had to do so much for behind the scenes, hours and hours of helping, things that just, the relationships, you know, we all know everything in Israel is about protektia, who you know. So you find the good Israeli, they'll do everything for you. So slowly, in different offices all across Israel, we found people that really want to, that care so much about people making Aliyah. So they know who to speak to when things are not so smooth. They know how to press the right button, how to make things just kind of work. Racheli knows all about this. David knows about this. So thank God, we really are very lucky with that. We really do strive to help everyone make their Aliyah as smooth and as easy as possible. It gives us so much happiness to see people here over the years and to see how they grow, how they change, how they start new professions, come as older people and volunteer or do amazing things. They're kids that just adjust. It's really, really incredible to see. In terms of tips, just a few things. Firstly, it's never too early to plan. Whether you're thinking that you might come in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, it's okay, reach out to us. Plans change. Just the other day, someone bought a home and was thinking of buying 2 to 3 years from now. Yesterday, I got an email. Was it yesterday? Today, I got an email. Someone that was thinking about making Aliyah in 2 years, suddenly it's going to be in 6 months. Plans change, so reach out. There's so much planning to be done. There's so many pieces to this puzzle of making Aliyah, of buying a home here. It's never too early, so reach out to us whenever you want. For everyone, unless you really own a home here, a pilot trip is so essential. Come here, let us help you brainstorm about communities, if applicable, about schooling. There are so many different options here. It depends on what you're looking for, what your kids may need. And the more we plan these pilot trips, the more your decision will be that much more thought out, and hopefully it'll be that much more successful. So let us help plan your pilot trips. We really schedule things from appointments with schools to meeting families to realtors in each community. And we see what a difference it makes. Sherry, you can maybe talk about that a little bit. And I really think the most important thing is to always keep a positive attitude. I watch people from the side and I see the people that look for the good. They speak about the good. This country has so much to offer. There are challenges, just like there's everywhere. But if you look for the good, then if you're coming with children, they'll see that, they'll mirror it. And please God, you'll have that much better of an aliyah, of a klita, of making a new life here and being successful. So with that, good luck to everyone. Reach out to us. We can't wait to speak to you. And Racheli, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Lara. My name is Racheli. I met Aliyah with my family in January of 2023 from Perth, Australia. We'd moved many times before. This was our 6th move as a family, but I have to say Israel was certainly the most challenging of all in terms of the bureaucracy. I'd have to say I was so used to, I'm very Australian, I'm very organized, and I lived in Asia predominantly, so Asia is also very organized. There are rules that everybody follows, and you go from step 1 to step 2, step 3. It all makes sense, and you know exactly what needs to be done. And then we decided to move to Israel, and that all changed. We had no idea how to navigate this bureaucracy. Everybody talks about the bureaucracy of Israel, but it's a bit like having your first kid. Until you actually experience it, people can tell you everything and anything about it, but you don't really understand until you actually give birth. I felt the same about the bureaucracy in Israel, and thank God what that email from Olim Advisors came to me one day. I think I must have joined a Facebook group about Aliyah, and then Rafi sent me an email asking if we needed any help, and I was so desperate for some help, and it was the best thing I ever did. I often, during the process, which took us a very, very long time, I said to Lara many times that I honestly don't think I would still be here if not for her. And I don't say that lightly, but I wouldn't have been able to get to the end because we had so many things that came up against us and so many rejections, and for no reason. I think anything and everything that could have gone wrong happened. But really, Lara was able to get us through every single problem. Like she just said, she had the right connections in the right areas, and everything went a lot faster than would have if we would have done it ourselves. And we actually couldn't have done it ourselves. It would not have been possible. So it was just, their service was incredible, and nothing was ever too much to ask. Lara always answered in a timely manner. With her whole heart. She always smiled. She really gave me a lot of encouragement. There were times where I was really going to give up, and I thought maybe this is not meant to be. Maybe we're not meant to be here because we're just not getting where we need to be. And she kept encouraging me, and she really got us through the end. So it was extremely helpful. The other thing was that coming from Australia, and I don't know if there are any Australians on this site, on this Zoom, but we don't get access to Nefesh B'Nefesh or any of those other organizations. We do have Telfed now, but when we met Aliyah, we didn't even know about Telfed, and we didn't have an Israeli embassy in Perth where we live. So we really had no one to help us. There was only the Jewish agency, and we could wait days or weeks to get an answer from them. So that was really challenging. So I would highly recommend Olim Advisors. And I really, at that time, I thanked you guys every day for getting us through another day in Israel. And I really still do think of you and thank you. Even last week, Meir, who helped us towards the end, called me to say that he was getting SMSs from one of my daughter's schools. And I was wondering why I was never getting these notifications. For some reason, they had his number, and still he helped me, a year and a half later, was happily helped me to sort out this issue with the SMSs and the app that they were using. For some reason, my number wasn't on their system, and no problem. He said immediately, I can come tomorrow, meet you at the school, we'll sort it out. And that's just the biggest gift that I could ever ask for. So thank you. And really, I would highly recommend them. In terms of any Aliyah tips, a couple of things. Firstly, bring as much as you can on your lift. If you're bringing a lift, bring everything. Israel has become very expensive, especially since the war. And, it's just nice. If someone who's moved many times, it's always nice to move with your own personal things and to have them as memories. Definitely readjust your expectations and your perspective on life. Israel is very different to the rest of the world. And of course, every country is different, but Israel is very special in the sense that things don't work the way that they do in many other countries. But if you keep trying to do it the way that you did back at home, it may not work. So if you can come with the perspective of being more comfortable with readjusting your expectations and being more comfortable with reinventing yourself in whatever way you need to, including professionally, which is what happens to a lot of people, it's going to make the ride a lot smoother. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Racheli. Okay, David and Naomi, you guys are up.
Hi, so David and Naomi Newfield. We made Aliyah last year, Erev Rosh Hashanah, from Boca, and now we're living in Jerusalem in Rehavia. Our situation was a bit more complicated. I'm born in South Africa, and with apostilles and that in the country, it gets pretty tricky. And especially when we were making Aliyah from within the country, we'd arrived with a brand new baby, and rather than waiting for our documents, we decided to finalize our Aliyah here. Having arrived on Erev Rosh Hashanah with October 7th, everything shut down immediately, and we were still on our tourist visas. And that definitely made things a lot more tricky. My mother also, having been born in Israel, I was considered an Ezra Choleh. And I was having a really hard time just getting appointments. I couldn't, we were told we had to go to Cholon in a month's time to try to get and I was at a business lunch with somebody, and he said, well, we used Olim Advisors, and you just need to give them a call. And I reached out to Lara. Within 2 days, I think she had an appointment for me at Nisrat Panim. I had a Tudat Zuhud in my hands within 2 weeks. So it was all the stress and uncertainty of how to navigate that Aliyah process. It was something that we commented between ourselves, some of the best money that we've ever spent. It was, we had Raquel as an advisor who was incredible. She came with us to all the different meetings. With life being pretty hectic, also sometimes we forget, especially, for example, our driver's license. You have a year to convert it, and it was one of those things that it just completely slipped our mind. And she would check in with us and say, just remember, we have these last little things that we just need to take care of to make sure that everything's finalized for your Aliyah. She sent us exactly what we needed to do, explained every step for us. It was it really just made the process so easy and smooth and reduced that stress for us. And we just knew that we were taken care of and that everything that we needed for Aliyah was just gonna falling into place. It was absolutely incredible service that really made our Aliyah so much easier and special. And in terms of our Aliyah tip, it's really the way we kind of think about it is letting go of this resistance. A lot of people will say, well, life was easier back home and we had this and bureaucracy was easier and the culture was different, and kind of realizing that we live here now and it's about adapting ourselves and accepting and embracing the society. And yes, things might be different, but that's okay. But it's not about Israel being hard. It's us adjusting ourselves to where we are. And a lot of people told us that, Israel's going to be hard, but there's some really special moments that make it worth it. And I kind of tried to reverse it and say, well, no, it's full of special moments that make it so worth it. And occasionally there's a hiccup and there's a bump, and that's where Olim Advisors comes in, just to smooth that over and just allow us to enjoy how special it is to live here.
Great. Thank you so much, David. Okay, Sherry, you're up.
Hi. My name is Sherry. Happy to be here. We made Aliyah, my family of 5 made Aliyah this past summer in July from Teaneck, New Jersey to Modi'in. And honestly, using Olim Advisors has been the best move for us. It started out when I went to a webinar about helping your teens with Aliyah and turned into a conversation with Olim Advisors about what would best help our family. And after speaking to them, we quickly realized that really for us, the best thing would be is to push up our Aliyah date from summer of 2025 to summer of 2024. And they were really right on the mark. So, and then we really had to scramble to make our pilot trip. It was already March and we booked a flight 2 weeks out. And we had 0 plans. We didn't have any appointments with schools or with seeing communities. And Olim Advisors just took over in the calmest possible way with the most responsive. They gave us the most responsive Aliyah advisor who helped make an incredible schedule for us. We got to see everything we wanted to see, every school we wanted to see. And even if we wanted to change plans along the way, she did it for us. It was fantastic. And we were able to make a lot of major decisions on our pilot trip and really set the pace and the tone for like our Aliyah that coming summer. And then going from there, the Olim Advisors just helped us with every question along the way. And when we got to Israel, the last thing on our minds was this appointment and that appointment. And there are so many appointments you need to have when you land in Israel and within the first few months. And we had this one specific Aliyah advisor, Raquel, who's incredible and made all of our appointments for us, even working with our schedules, would tell us exactly what to bring to the appointments and come with us to these appointments and speak in Hebrew for us and answer any questions, anything extra you wanted to ask or anything specific, they would help us. And along the way, also, we've had a lot of questions. And Raquel is always the person, she knows us from our pilot trip. And she's always been the person we turn to. It's so helpful because she knows our specific needs, even to the point where like she'll even share my screen with me on WhatsApp and help me make a doctor's appointment through the Maccabi app. And she'll help me navigate so many things. We're still asking her questions, and she just is so helpful. The people at Olim Advisors are not only incredible at what they do, they know people in the bureaucratic offices by names. They're saying hello to this person, hello to that person. I think they spend a lot of time there. But they're just like, they love what they do, and you feel it. You feel how invested they are in your successful Aliyah and in your family, and they just want things to go well for you. My tip for Aliyah is just that if you're making Aliyah in the summer with your family, it's best to come earlier, because I think nobody tells you that, but you get to take care of the appointments earlier, and your kids get to know the neighborhood and the buses and where the best pizza is, and just get more comfortable so that by the time school starts, they can take the buses on their own and they just feel better equipped and more acclimated to the environment. So that's all.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. Thanks so much. Okay, Artie, you're next.
Hi, Artie Jacobowitz, made Aliyah from Tampa, Florida, arrived the 31st of January of this year. So we're new, little bit getting used to it. We planned our pilot trip, and our Olim Advisor, Meyer, was just amazing. He helped plan our appointments with realtors, with the shuls and the area, the communities that we were looking at living in. We ended up purchasing an apartment on paper, and again, Olim Advisors was amazing. They walked us through everything, referred us to excellent legal counsel with Abraham, and mortgage broker with Natan, who again helped us the same way that Rafi and Laura and Meyer helped us along the way. Every detail was covered for us. We had question upon question upon question. They never stopped answering our questions. We ended up purchasing an apartment up in Achziv. Right now we're living in Haifa because Achziv is a little bit too close to the border for us right now. We're hoping to be able to move up there when the apartment is completed, which should be in the next 6 to 8 months, I think. They're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is great. Connections with the government. Meyer was with us every step of the way, whether it was healthcare or getting our driver's licenses or paying our nona, which is the property tax. He was there. He made the appointments. He came with us. We speak no Hebrew. Well, maybe a little bit now, since we've been here a little while. But at the time, we didn't speak any Hebrew at all. And he was right there by our side with the people that are willing to help you, with the people that weren't so willing to help you. He was still there, and we worked our way through it. He was absolutely incredible. Tip for people who are making Aliyah, excuse me. First of all, learn as much Hebrew as you can before you get here. Plan as best as you can, as far out as you can. And basically, just enjoy living in Israel. This is what we've been doing. I think someone had said earlier, don't try and fight the system, just kind of accept the system. You'll be a whole lot happier that way. I want to thank Olim Advisors, Rafi, Laura, Meyer, everyone involved who made our lives way easier than they could have been. We speak to people who have made Aliyah a long time ago. We speak with native Israelis all the time, and they tell us how well we're doing for being here in such a short amount of time, and that's because of Olim Advisors. Thank you.
Great, Artie. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to change it up a bit, and we're going to have Shibolet and Meir, who are two of our amazing advisors, talk a little bit about their backgrounds and how they help our clients with Aliyah.
Hi everyone. So Olim Advisors is really a labor of love. We are very passionate about helping Jewish people come home to Israel. It feels like you are our family. You are our family. So it's just an honor to do it and to work with you together. My own Aliyah from South Africa, I did not have Olim Advisors. I didn't know about them then. I've been working for them for 3 years now, Baruch Hashem. We made Aliyah 6 years ago. I had to go literally to every office 3 to 4 times. So they tell you what you're missing, come back again. You're missing another thing. No, this isn't right. So the amount of times and headache, it was just an absolute nightmare. So please God, that's what we try and do for you, for our clients, is to save time, and help you understand the process and to overcome difficulties. There's often hiccups along the way, and it can be really stressful. Just having us there, it's, we like calm the stress down, walk you through it, speak the language. We just try to streamline the whole process. There's like Lara said, there's really a nice thing to have protectia and to know the people behind the counters and to know how to talk to them and to just get through the process, Baruch Hashem. The Aliyah tip I have is come with the mindset that you're all in, then any challenges can be dealt with. I think that's the tip that our rabbi gave us before we made Aliyah, and it really changed our outlook, because we knew that things would not be perfect, but it was our home and we wanted to be here. So Bezrat Hashem, I hope that we get to meet some of you in the future and help you. Thank you.
Thanks, Shibolet. Thank you. Okay, Meir, you're next.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So after hearing all of you, there's not much to say, but you can see that we really love what we do. I always feel blessed and grateful to being able to collaborate with Olim Advisors. I made Aliyah with my family from Mexico 4.5 years ago. And one of the first things that I wanted to do as I met Rafi and Lara was to really be part of this process, to let people know what I didn't know when I made Aliyah, and it really makes a difference. I think a lot of Aliyahs can face a lot of trouble or even not being successful because they don't know, or they face some obstacles that we try to avoid and that we try to help them as much as possible, and really with all the heart that we are passionate about. That's why I really try to spend a lot of time making adjustments, doing some research, trying to understand. Sometimes in Israel, it not only depends on Protecta, it also depends on the day that the person who is giving the service is having. So trying to understand that. Some people say that in Israel, when they say no, means let's talk about it. But when we come from other countries, we are not so used to that. Of course, Mexico is not example, so I'm not going to go there. But I think one of the most important things, having said, as Shibolet and everyone said, what we try to do, walking all of you through the bureaucratic process, but it is really a lot more in the previous phase, trying to help understanding the Aliyah process of each family, of each client. What are their needs? If it is a family, if it's a senior couple, what are they looking for? It's very important. I would say that as a tip, having a lot of clarity why you are making Aliyah, because there will be challenging moments, and it is important that we have that to remember on those stressful moments. And I heard a lot of things, and as my mom used to say, in Israel, you need to love Israel first, and then Israel will love you back fully and completely. And I always love that, and I try to be the best citizen I can, and to be in this family that we're all together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Meir. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to switch topics a bit and talk about the challenges that home buyers face. And it's not just for foreign buyers, it's also for Anglos who are living here. And a lot of people who make Aliyah want to first rent, and then once they figure out where they want to live, then they'll buy. And so the tips and advice that I'd like to share with you now really applies to foreign buyers as well as to Anglos. And so the first thing to keep in mind is finding the right community. And it's really based on a few factors. The first thing is deciding what's the purpose of the purchase. Are you buying it because you want to make Aliyah now? Are you buying it because you want to make Aliyah down the road and you want to have a home? Maybe you're buying it because you want a vacation home. Maybe you're buying it just as an investment. And so the purpose of your purchase is important. So for example, if you're buying it because you want to move into it when you make Aliyah, then you need to think about the communities and locations and proximity to work, and what you really want to have, what lifestyle you want to have. On the flip side, if you're buying it for investment purposes, those factors might not matter. You might not care if it's not an Anglo community, or if it's not by the beach, or if it's not a religious community. What you're really looking for there, you're looking for the biggest upside potential. And so, first of all, thinking about why you want to buy the property, and it could be both, right? You could be buying something that you hope will appreciate in the future as well, but understanding why you're buying the property is a very important factor. The second thing is determining your budget. What I tell people is, if you can't afford Tel Aviv or Yerushalayim or Ramat Bet Shemesh, then don't waste your time looking there. It just doesn't make sense. Everyone's looking for that deal, and those deals very rarely exist. So first of all, figure out what your budget is. And part of that is deciding if you want a mortgage. If you do want a mortgage, and yes, you can get a mortgage in Israel if you're a foreign buyer, that could greatly impact your budget, and that could, in essence, open up your list, open up the choices to a lot of other communities that maybe you thought you couldn't afford. So that's another thing you have to think through. And then the last thing is make a list of preferences. And what I mean by that is, think about what you would like. If you're buying this home because this is your place that you're going to move into full-time or part-time, it's really an opportunity for you to start a new chapter in your life. It's an exciting opportunity. And maybe it's something that you've always wanted. Maybe you always wanted to live by the beach, or maybe you wanted to live in the city, or maybe you wanted to live up north in an area that's more rural. This is a great opportunity to make a list of preferences, recognizing that you might not find a property that meets all your preferences, but if you have 10 things that you're looking for and you can find something that meets 8 out of 10, then that's pretty good too. So these are really some of the main factors that you should think about when you're trying to decide where you want to buy a property. The next thing to think about is working with the right people. And this is so important, especially for people who are buying from abroad, but also for people that are Anglos here that are just not familiar with the real estate industry and don't have contacts. And you want to make sure, as Artie mentioned, you want to make sure that you're working with a realtor who doesn't just speak English, but really a realtor that has a lot of experience working with foreign buyers or with Anglo buyers. Maybe you just made Aliyah 3 or 4 years ago, and maybe you can take advantage, for example, of the discounted purchase tax. If you work with a lawyer who understands that, they'll be able to guide you, and they'll be able to help you identify opportunities to really take advantage of these benefits. The same thing applies to mortgage advisors. We used a mortgage advisor when we took out a mortgage, and he saved us literally tens of thousands of shekel over the life of the mortgage. And so you want to make sure, again, here, you're working with somebody who's familiar with the different options. For example, a lot of people think that you can't get a mortgage if you're older, if you're in your 60s and 70s, and that's completely not true. There are options, and a good mortgage advisor will help you find those opportunities, find those options. And last but not least, you want to make sure that you're working with a reputable developer, that you're buying from a reputable developer, a company that is backed by the banks. If God forbid they go out of business, the bank will step in. There's a lot of amazing developers in Israel, but unfortunately, there are also a lot of shady companies, a lot of developers who don't have this bank-backed guarantees, who maybe don't build at a high level. And so you want to make sure that you're talking to people, that you're interacting with these individuals that I mentioned, who can guide you and really steer you towards people and companies that you should buy from, and steering you away from companies that you should stay away from. And we have a network of these individuals, and we'll be happy to introduce you to them. The next thing is to be ready to move quickly once you found an apartment. When you find an apartment that's in a good location and that's priced right, it will often sell quickly. And a lot of people, whether they're from America, UK, Australia, South Africa, or around the world, are very surprised by that, and they're not ready. So they'll start looking and they'll find something. And then if they don't live in Israel, they'll say, okay, well, you know what, let's plan a trip in 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, 2 months down the road. And by the time they get there, very often that apartment is no longer available. So what you need to do is you need to be ready. You need to have your ducks in order. So for example, if you are going to take a mortgage, make sure you have the mortgage pre-approval. If you're going to work with a lawyer, make sure that you hire the lawyer who won't just help you with the legal aspects of the transaction, but also help you with other parts like opening up a bank account, transferring funds to Israel. These are things that can take you weeks to get into place. And again, if you find an apartment that meets your needs and meets your budgets, you can't afford to slow things down to get these things in order. You want to be able to put in an offer and move quickly. And I just want to share with you a quick example that kind of encapsulates all of this. A few months ago, we were contacted by a lovely couple from New Jersey. They wanted to buy an apartment in Israel. They wanted to buy a vacation home, and then eventually they were going to make Aliyah. And they had been to Netanya a couple of years ago, and they stayed in an Airbnb and loved the city, but they felt that the Netanya didn't have a large enough of a religious community for them, and so they wanted to look elsewhere. And so they came to Israel on a pilot trip, and we, in essence, found 4 or 5 other communities that we thought they'd be interested in. They went around, and we introduced them to realtors and people who lived there. And at the end of the day, they came to the realization that the Netanya is perfect for them. And they went ahead and they found a beautiful apartment overlooking the sea. And about 3 months ago, they bought the apartment of their dreams. So this is where we get involved. This is how we can help you. And again, I really want to encourage you to reach out to us and let us figure out what you're looking to do. Before we get to questions, I just wanted to mention a couple last things. First of all, as a thank you for attending our webinar, we wanted to let you know that we're offering everybody a $500 discount off our Aliyah packages. If you go ahead and sign up at the end of October, we will give you $500 off of the 2 Aliyah packages that we have. When it comes to real estate, you saw the value that we provide, and we used to charge $3,000 for the service. But as of late, we've seen an increase in people who want to buy homes in Israel because of October 7th, because of anti-Semitism around the world. And they might not necessarily want to make Aliyah now, but they want to have a home in Israel, God forbid. And so what we said is, for the time being, let's waive the $3,000 fee. Let's help people in any way that we can. Let's do our share in helping people realize their dreams of finding a home in Israel. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, just in terms of free information, we're relaunching our Instagram account, where we plan on sharing a lot of tips and useful information and inspirational stories that I really think it will resonate with you. So take a moment and follow our page, and I think you will find that very helpful. Okay, so let's get to the questions. I'm going to go ahead and just stop the screen sharing here and just pull up some of the questions, and we'll just take some time and answer them. Laura, so question to you. Actually, sorry, David, I know you have to head out, so I'll ask you first, and then we'll get to the question for Laura. There's a question here about buying a home versus renting a home, and so I'd love to get your thoughts and Naomi's thoughts, and also some of the other people that have made Aliyah, as to, you know, what went into the decision. Why did you decide to rent or buy your home before you made Aliyah?
So the advice we received before we made Aliyah was to rent for a little bit. And we've moved a fair number of times. I think this was our 6th move. And it was also then a personal decision as well, that we wanted to finally live in a community for a little while to make sure that it fully fit with where we found ourselves. Thank God, we're actually very happy where we are at the moment. But we just coming into it without having ever lived here, the decision we made was to live in our neighborhood for a little while before we decided to buy.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Artie, you ended up buying a property. Why did you decide that you wanted to buy it versus renting first?
We traveled all over Israel when we were on our pilot trip, and we went up to Akziv, fell in love with the area. I love the water. My wife loves the water. So 400 meters away from the Mediterranean, how bad could that be? We had owned houses when we were in the States, and we wanted to settle in. We are here for the long haul, and so we wanted to get a piece of the ground, basically. So we
Amazing.
decided to buy on paper and wait for it to be built.
Amazing. Yeah, we actually are very familiar with Akhziv. Our mother owns an apartment there, and it's like heaven on earth. So if anybody is looking for a piece of heaven in Israel, let us know. Now is a bit of a challenging time with it being up north, but please God, the war will come to an end, and then life will just return there. And it's really a special community, and we work directly with the developers. If you want to get some more information about this specific project, let us know. Sherry, what about you? What were your thoughts when you were thinking about buying for renting? What did you think? You're just on mute, Cherry.
Okay, we also really wanted to try out the community first before we committed to buying. And we were also a little rushed with our Aliyah, so we didn't really have time to think about buying, but I'm happy that we got to settle in and see what the neighborhood is about before we make that decision.
Okay, great. And Racheli, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. And it's not only within the city and the community. For example, we're in Ra'anana, and which is a fairly smallish city, but even within Ra'anana, there are certain things people tell you, like you need to be near your kids' school, or near where your kids do chugim. And like in Australia, it's a big deal. So I drive the kids to school. It's a 10-minute drive, but here in Ra'anana, it's even, by a geographical distance, it might be, in theory, a 10-minute drive, but with the traffic and with trying to rush to work, and it just doesn't work. The kids have to be in walking distance to school, and they have to be within walking distance to their chugim because they finish school before I get them from work. So logistically, there are so many factors. Shabbat is another big thing if you're Orthodox and don't travel on Shabbat. Being within walking distance to your community. Again, in Australia, I would happily walk 45 minutes to an hour to a friend's house, but here with the heat and other factors, it's just not part of the culture. You need to be within small distance. So I'm very happy that we rented first as well.
Great, thank you. Laura, the question I was going to ask you is somebody was asking about services that we provide for people that have disabilities. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
I just want to add one thing about the real estate. It's interesting. I always thought, my mom used to always say rent first, and there was definitely something to that. In Israel, the rules here don't work. Like the prices just keep going up. So I used to always say that it makes sense to rent first, but now I'm not so sure. I almost feel like we were lucky. We came here, and a year later, we rented the first year, and then we bought. We were very, very lucky. Our father-in-law pushed us into it. And in retrospect, it was the best decision that we ever made, because today we would not have been able to afford this house. And the prices double and quadruple. And I think anywhere in Israel, I've even heard that down south in Sderot, prices just go up. So there's definitely something to be said about figuring out where you want to live finally. But there's something about coming and buying right away if you are able to, because you can always sell. It's just more of an Israeli mindset. Okay, so you buy it and you sell. It's like that's how they kind of think a big deal. For us, it's no, that's a big deal. But I just think a good friend of ours from the States, he came and he bought an apartment, and he waited from the beginning to when he bought. I'm not sure if it was a year, and he told me the price went up by 20%. That's a lot of money. So there's just something to be said about that. Me and Rafi were talking to a realtor the other day, and we asked him, when's the best time to buy? And he said, yesterday. I don't know. We keep thinking there's a bubble. We haven't seen the bubble burst yet. Sorry, Rafi. So in terms of the question for special needs.
Right. They're talking about specifically here about, do you advise people with young adults with physical and intellectual disabilities, or is that a specialized organization? So we do offer the special needs. So
we definitely do, and you can reach out to us. We have people that help with families that have children with special needs. There are very different rules for someone that's under the age of 18 or over the age of 18, and you have to fight for your right. But please reach out. You can reach out to me, and we can get on a Zoom and hear exactly what your needs are and take it from there. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Then there's a question about, how did you know which community you wanted to move to? Some people have family, friends, the specifics, but some people really just start with a clean canvas. So, I'd love to hear from you, Sherry, if you can maybe talk about how you chose your community. I think people would find that helpful.
Okay, when we met with the Nefesh B'Nefesh advisor, Eli Bialik, he kind of steered us towards Yerushalayim or Modi'in, and through our pilot trip, we got to see both. And honestly, bringing our kids was the best thing we could have done because they chose the community themselves. We were on board. We were like, either one works for us, but we're coming in with older kids and we wanted them to be part of the decision, and they chose their schools too. So that was really what led us to our decision. We're very happy.
Great. Racheli, how about you?
So our Aliyah process was very rushed. We came in a very short period of time of deciding we were moving to Israel. So to be honest, we did not do a pilot trip. We didn't look around. We just thought we should go to Manana. I'm not even sure why, to be honest. We
Mary
did
was
have
there.
quite a few friends here, and we had been here the summer before, and we had teenagers at the time, and I mean they're still teenagers, but we went out with all of our friends' kids, and we really liked what we saw in them. We saw that there was something different about them, and we just felt Ranana had something that we wanted for our children. Whether it was the community aspect or the school or combination of it all, community. The English speaking thing is interesting as well, although it's been terrible for all of our Hebrew. None of us have really learned much Hebrew. But socially it's been incredible, and that's important, especially for children and teenagers. There's always someone that they can relate to because of the language, and as you know, it has its pros and cons, but I think when you're moving to a new country, having that social support is really very important. So it's an important factor to take into consideration when going to a very, very Israeli community versus a more Anglo community.
It's a question for Meir Shibolet and Sherry. They're asking about the ages of the kids. So when each one of you made Aliyah, how old were your kids?
Okay. My oldest is going into ninth grade. Is in ninth grade now, and then I have a seventh grader. So and younger, but they were, priority for us. And I know the first grader would just make it work, Mm-hmm.
Shibolet, how old were your kids?
So we were advised to try and make Aliyah before our children turned 10. That was the advice we were given. Many people have come with children over the age of 10 and they've been fine. I had a 2-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a almost 10-year-old, and that was our cutoff. And I guess it really pushed us to make the move then.
Meir, how about you?
Our daughter was 10 and our son was 7. That was a very good age to make Aliyah, although it was COVID time. But today they are more Israeli than falafel, so I'm happy with that.
So
I do want to add that I think with Corona and with October 7th, things have changed. I think before we all heard the come by the age of 10, that was something very, very popular. Corona hit and we saw more and more families coming with older kids, and for sure in this year. People are just changing their plans and definitely coming with older kids. And I feel like the communities are getting that much more adapted at helping. So if you do go to a community where there are a lot of Anglos, there's still are a lot of challenges, but there is a lot more support, whether it's in the school or just in the community, and that makes a big difference. I do recommend, if you come with older kids, to go to communities that have more of an Anglo support, even if it's for a few years until you figure things out. But we've had many families within the last 12 to 24 months that have come with older kids. And it's a big change from 5, 6, 7 years ago, where really people would say, okay, so I'm going to wait for my kids to finish high school and then we'll figure things out. Today, a whole different way of looking at things.
Right, I agree.
Could I add something, Rafi,
Please.
just to what Lara said? It's definitely true about the older children, and there is in Bet Shemesh an English-speaking high school, especially for people that have come later, and it's a bit harder for them to finish high school in Hebrew. So they've actually adapted to prepare for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So just want to add, I
please.
also come with older kids, 9th and 11th grade, and a 4th grader. But my two older ones have gone to international schools here. So there are a lot of options that people don't know about.
Right.
And even within the Israeli school systems, there are Israeli schools that have more supportive programs. And so I really, really would advise people to look into all of those options before choosing a city. Again, some have dormitories, some don't, and there's a lot out there. And so look into them. There are a lot of good options.
Well, Chali, that's a good point with your daughters in an international school. That's true. We didn't have over the years anyone else that went to an international school, and I think for your girls, that was a good option at the time. So yeah, if anyone has questions, maybe you'd be happy to.
Yeah, feel free, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a question here about how to choose a community. This person is a conservative Jew, and they want to look for an area where there are people in their 30s and 40s, and families and singles. And I just want to mention that we help people from all spectrum, from the entire spectrum, from people that are very observant to people who are completely secular. And it's amazing to us that everyone just has a connection. We've helped people that have never been to Israel before, that have grown up in homes that have no connection to Zionism, to Israel. And it's something that just, kind of wakes up and they realize that this is where they want to be. And so we can help you with that process. A lot of it depends on, factors like, where you work or what you do for a living, and what region in Israel you want to live, and what else is important to you. But this is what I was referring to earlier, is reach out to us and let's have a conversation. We can absolutely guide you. We can introduce you to people in different communities. And what I always recommend to people is start with a wide net. In other words, start with a longer list of possible communities, because there are a lot of emerging communities that are just wonderful. Maybe they're not the Anglo bubbles that everyone's familiar with, but they're amazing cities that have a mix of religious and secular and Israeli and American and people from around the world. And it's really good to start with a longer list. You can always cross options off the list. So really be open-minded and flexible, and we can definitely help you with that process. There's a question here about whether or not they should buy or rent. And I just want to quickly talk about the pros and cons. I think we talked a little bit about it. The advantage of renting is it gives you the flexibility. If you're not sure where you want to move to, maybe you're moving to a city and maybe there's a different neighborhood that you want to live on. It gives you that flexibility. The downside of that is that you don't have that same security where your landlord could come to you and say, look, I'm increasing the rent, or I'm renting it to somebody else, or I'm selling the place. And so that's one downside there. The upside of buying, as Laura mentioned, is that prices are appreciating, and it seems like that's going to continue even during the war. A lot of people think that things have slowed down, and in most places around the country they have not. And so if you wait a year or 2 years or 3 years, there's a good chance prices will be more expensive. There is an option that kind of is the best of both worlds, which is buying something on paper, right? So you can buy something that's not built yet, and then you don't have to put all the money down, and that's something definitely that we can talk about. Mayor, there's a question here about somebody who's thinking about making Aliyah maybe in 4 or 5 years, and wanted to know if they feel that they should start planning for it. So I know you've worked with a lot of people that aren't necessarily making Aliyah in the next year or so. What advice do you have for somebody who's maybe thinking about it 2, 3, 4 years down the road?
Thank you, Rafi. Absolutely start the process, as Lara mentioned, because again, sometimes plan change. And also a lot of times we have like an idea, but once we start getting into things, making questions, getting into communities, etc., we start realizing a lot of things that we didn't realize before. And that could accelerate the process, or even finish all the process, have all the documentation ready, and then you will feel that you can decide when to do it, but you are ready and you are prepared. And in the meanwhile, there's also that possibility that if they know, because I think every one of us, we started Aliyah the day we were born, and then eventually we arrived. But having said that, if you decide that you want to make Aliyah in 4 years, but in the meantime, as with Karen and Artie, they found a place and they were ready to buy it, and then they can arrive to their home. So I totally recommend. That's one thing. Another thing is that COVID and war showed us that we cannot take for granted that it's like, yeah, I take a plane and I will arrive to Israel. Israel will always be open, but we need to have everything ready to arrive. So totally start the process.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mayor. There's a question here just about brokerage accounts, and it depends on which country you're coming from. A lot of brokerage accounts will let you keep your account with them, even if you don't have a residence in that country. But it really depends on the brokerage firm, and it's something that we can definitely talk to you about offline. But it is an option, and just so that you know, for those of you who live in the U.S. and maybe thinking about your Social Security payment. If you make Aliyah, it's very easy to have that payment directly made into your Israeli bank account. And so, from a financial point of view, there aren't that many challenges when it comes to these types of questions. A lot of this has been worked out already.
Rafi, I just want to add, sorry, to what Mayor said. So I always tell people, like Mayor said, get all your documents in order, get your apostilles. Sometimes people have a hard time, whether people coming from different countries, have lived in several countries. It can be difficult. So get all your documents in order. The only thing that has a time issue is your background check, which is only valid for 6 months. But everything else you should have. Get your original documentation, get everything apostilled, have it there, and then plan whatever you want to plan. But at least you have those things in order. So I would definitely do that for anyone who's thinking about it. There's no you can't lose anything by having that.
Right. There's a question here about buying an apartment in a new project, which is something that Artie and his wife Karen did. You don't have to work with a broker. Depending on the situation, it might be beneficial to have a broker help you with that. But this is something that we can also help you, based on your budget and what you're looking for. And so the answer is you don't have to work with a broker. You could, in some cases, go directly to the developer, but very often they don't speak English. They don't necessarily provide the same level of support that you would need, that either a realtor or Olim Advisors can provide. So reach out to us and let's figure out what makes the most sense for you. I think we've covered most of the questions. I'm just skimming through it here.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really, thanks for your advice and for your words of wisdom. And to everyone that's joined us, we wish you a Shana Tova. May it be a peaceful year, a healthy year. And please God, the war will come to an end here. All of our hostages and our soldiers and everybody will come back quickly and safely. So be in touch. We look forward to hearing from you, and we wish you all the best. Take care. So long.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye. Take care.